Did you realize you can earn an upwards of 3 to 4 times more revenue by operating a property as a short-term rental versus a long-term?
Let me show you how.
Hey everybody, I'm Josh Cage with Resourceful Agent Realty, and the purpose of this video is primarily to share my knowledge and learned experience with the short-term rental industry. Before becoming a real estate agent, I was an operations manager at both a hotel and multiple vacation rentals. I know. There's so many videos these days on purchasing and operating a short-term rental, but after gaining hands-on experience in the industry and now focusing my efforts on the real estate side, I found the education of both are very, very important when it comes to deciding if someone will be successful in the short-term industry or not. This video was made for someone who is actively searching or has already purchased a rental property, someone currently using a property management company but is sick and tired of paying a 10 to 15% commission, even someone who has been renting their property to long-term tenants but now wants to start increasing cash flow versus just covering their monthly expenses, and also someone deciding to possibly sublease their apartment for short-term rental. If you or someone you know are any of the above, make sure to like and subscribe to the Resourceful Agent Realty channel, and of course, share this video. So, let's get started. First things first, let's talk about location. Where is the property located? The location of the property is probably the most important factor when deciding if it will be a successful short-term rental or not. And this is mainly because if the rental itself is perfect but not in an ideal location, well, yes, you might get bookings, but you also run the risk of losing bookings over time. Guests are going to leave reviews about the perfect rental in a not so perfect neighborhood. If this is you, maybe try renting for a while and see how it goes, but also set a time limit to determine if the investment for short-term renting is better than maybe a long-term rental. If you are currently in the market to purchase the home for a short-term rental, never forget location. I will say it again, location. Location is the real estate side of owning and operating a short-term rental. Ask yourself, how is the neighborhood? Is it primarily a rental neighborhood, or are the majority of homes occupied by owners? Do the neighbors show pride of ownership in their yards? Or if it's an apartment or condo, how do the patios and grounds present themselves? Remember, at the end of the day, this is real estate, and regardless of the success with your short-term rental, you are investing in real estate, so make a smart investment. And most importantly, if you haven't already purchased the home, well, this is where a real estate expert like myself and the agents here at Resourceful Agent Realty can help you make these determinations and ensure you invest in a long-term investment, not a short-term failure. Being a real estate agent and actively looking for short-term rentals myself, I've seen plenty of homes on the market with short-term rental history, but in a not so ideal neighborhood. At first, the business is seeming to take off, but once the reviews come in, well, their business decreases. Now, they're forced to lease month to month and then eventually long-term because the golden rule of location wasn't followed. At this point, all the money they invested in decorations, amenities, and/or management software is just money wasted. I know it goes without saying, but if your investment is profitable, you'll have more annual revenue to eventually use as a down payment on another short-term investment. So I recommend if you are purchasing the home and want to see if it passes the location test, well, visit the neighborhood on different days and at different times of the day. See the action in the neighborhood. Really, this is advice for anyone looking to purchase a home for any reason. And if you're buying out of the area and possibly sight unseen, ask your agent to do this and have them send some videos. A good resourceful agent shouldn't have any issues ensuring their client is making a good decision. So let's talk about demand. So your property passes the location test, but what is the demand? In that ideal location for short-term renting, who is going to be renting from you? For how long and during what season? The easiest way to determine demand is simply by visiting sites such as Airbnb and VRBO. Input your location and a variety of months in different seasons and see what comes up. If there are a lot of Airbnbs, well, then there is demand, but also more competition. If you don't see a lot of Airbnbs, but in your area there is definitely a need for short-term rentals, well, then that's a no-brainer. So let's figure out who is going to be renting from you. The Who, besides an iconic English rock band, can be anyone. So this is a big factor and something not many people think about. Who needs a short-term rental in your area? Do you live in a tourist destination? If so, are there multiple tourist destinations in your area? Is the property in a good proximity to them? Tourism is always the first market people consider with short-term rentals, but what about hospitals? Is there a major hospital or medical facility that generates overnight demand? This is definitely a more unfortunate situation over vacationers, but families with loved ones whom are hospitalized sometimes need housing for the whole family, and hotel rooms are just sometimes too expensive. Also, nurses who travel and contract with hospitals need housing too. Even big corporations or industries have executives or new employees coming through town who will need temporary short-term housing. Also think about your town's real estate and if it's booming and the demand outweighs the inventory. These buyers will need somewhere to stay while visiting and prospecting homes. If this is your town, I recommend creating a digital advertisement and reaching out to as many real estate agents as possible and let them know about your rental property. There's so many reasons why people are renting short term, so look into the area and maybe ask other people whom are already in the industry who they're renting to. How long? Now, how long? How long are people needing a short-term rental? This is determined mainly by the who and what their demand for short-term rental is, but can be helpful to determine. Make sure you understand how long people will require short-term housing. If the real estate boom is rumored to be slowing down, well, then maybe the investment is not worth it. But if the location is, well, then potentially the real estate alone is the profit, and you can rent it long term if all else fails. This might give you the equity to purchase another short-term rental in a better location with a more sustainable long game. How about seasons? When is the busiest season and when is the slowest season? This isn't necessarily related to weather. It can be any type of season, but do the busy, profitable seasons justify the investment, an adequate opportunity to be successful? What you don't want is a couple of busy months with the majority slow. For example, if your town only sees short-term business during the winter seasons or maybe during fishing season, well, this one busy season might not sustain your revenue all year. This is unless the busy season is very profitable and you can charge a lot of money on a nightly basis with 100% occupancy. If so, do your due diligence and do the math. If not, maybe consider renting both short and long term, meaning try to find a traveling nurse during the off season who will rent for months at a time and will fill the busy season with nightly and more profitable rentals. Every location is different, but determining the seasons to be more prepared is crucial. Again, ask someone who already operates an Airbnb or even a property management company about what seasons are best. Okay, everyone, it's time for, in my opinion, one of the most commonly overlooked pieces of detail when analyzing if your property will be successful or not. And this is no other than the infamous
Homeowners Association.
Otherwise referred to as the HOA. Does your neighborhood have an HOA? And most importantly, does it allow for short-term rentals? If you can't answer that question, you better find out because this could make or break your short-term business. If your property doesn't have an HOA, generally you should be okay. However, if there are codes, covenants, and restrictions, aka CC&Rs, review those too. The CC&Rs are a legal document that is filed with the county recorder's office and made part of the official real estate records that run with the land and is part of the community and are initially recorded by the real estate developer. The CC&Rs act as the governing documentation which the HOA board refers to when making decisions in the association. So even without an HOA, always check the CC&Rs because you never know what you're going to find. I recommend contacting a licensed real estate agent, such as myself, to research the CC&Rs and HOA documents. These documents are provided by the title company and should be reviewed by the agent and home buyer during the escrow process. A lot of headaches and time can be saved by reviewing these documents prior to submitting an offer. If your neighborhood does have an HOA and it allows for short-term rentals, well, I recommend looking into how many other homes are being rented short-term in that neighborhood and, most importantly, contacting the HOA board. Sometimes you'll find that yes, the HOA does currently allow for short-term, but they're receiving way too many complaints from neighbors and will be eventually voting to change that. This is the risk you take when operating a short-term rental within a governing HOA-controlled community. Also keep in mind the HOA fee will be an additional expense, so it's important to include this when running the numbers. In North Idaho, for example, I've seen HOA fees anywhere from $16 to $650 a month. Next, it's crucial to research if there are any rules regulating short-term rentals in your city or county and if they require a transient occupancy tax. Transient occupancy taxes are most commonly found in areas with high tourism, but that's not always the case. If your city doesn't have a TOT in place, I recommend contacting the city or county office in case they might be planning to enact such a tax in the future. This is another crucial figure to incorporate when running your numbers. In Coeur d'Alene, Idaho, as of 2018, you must file with the city and pay $285 for the first year and $96 each year thereafter. Also, an application must be submitted to the city along with a whole slew of documentation such as parking plans, escape plans, electrical and gas shutoff location, diagrams, etc. Coeur d'Alene, Idaho also regulates the amount of short-term rentals allowed on a single parcel. For example, if you are planning to purchase a duplex or triplex, there could be restrictions on how many short-term rentals are allowed per parcel number. The city of Coeur d'Alene allows only one short-term rental per parcel. This is primarily to prevent multifamily from becoming a pseudo hotel. There is, however, no restriction on the number of short-term rentals an owner can have, so as long as they are permitted by the city. Okay guys, so one more topic I wanted to touch on is worst case scenarios, because there is always a worst case scenario. So you found the perfect home for a short-term rental. You have run the numbers and you and your agent have done the proper due diligence and you're ready to make an offer. Before pulling that trigger, don't forget that you're buying this property for a short-term rental, but in reality, you're making a long-term investment, or at least you should think of it that way. Even if this rental is a cash cow and makes you a ton of money, what happens if for some reason you need to sell the property? Did you make a good real estate investment? There are many factors that come into play here, like location and why it's important you work with a qualified agent for the transaction, but just make sure you will potentially be able to sell this property for some profit. Avoid buying the property just because it fits a short-term rental application. Consider the resale factors such as the physical condition of the home and how much maintenance you are willing to put into it. The location to schools in the district, local community life and events, neighborhood noise levels, local long-term rent rates. If you don't need to sell the home, but the short-term game isn't working, will renting it long-term provide enough income to make it profitable? Also, how about the proximity to hospitals, like renting long-term? Can you also rent monthly to traveling nurses? How about stairs and where the master bedroom is located? There's so many factors that go into this, so sit down with your agent and make sure you run the risk versus reward if the short-term rental doesn't work out. Okay, everyone, it's time to wrap up this educational video on short-term rentals. I hope you are enjoying the show so far and you now have the confidence to move forward with your short-term rental investment and long-term success. Remember to like this video and subscribe to the Resourceful Agent Realty channel. Your support gives us the drive to keep making these videos, and of course, we really appreciate the support. Until next time, I'm Josh Cates with Resourceful Agent Realty, and hope to see you soon.